So this ties to collective impact. So collective impact, again, is where you're bringing multiple community stakeholders together. It's often cross-sector, meaning that it's often government, nonprofit, and for-profit. If at a minimum, it may be government and nonprofit. Hopefully it's got all three sectors in there, but you're bringing lots of people to the table, lots of voices, and trying to leverage the strengths of each of those sectors and each of those organizations towards achieving some community result that you've identified. The work that's gone into collective impact originally said there are 5 conditions to being successful as a collective impact model. There's some new thinking around that I'll share with you, but the first one is that you have a common agenda. I would argue that that is your result, your population result is your common agenda. We are trying to work towards this vision that we see for the community, that our water is clean, that our air is clean, that farmers are successful. Whatever that big result is your common agenda that everyone can see themselves at the table working towards. Shared measurement is a way to have collective impact be successful. And again, if you've identified your indicators and every meeting you're circling back to how are we doing on that? How are we each contributing to that? What's our individual contribution to these indicators? Then you have something to talk about and hang your hat on and to strategize and celebrate. Mutually reinforcing activities, just the structure of RBA helps that, but then again, it also helps show how everyone has a stake in this and a role to play, and that they're in alignment, right? So RBA allows you to say there are no outliers and we have to get out of each other's way, and even better than that, we can leverage each other's strategies and strengths and move this a little faster. It is a support for the continuous communication. So I don't know how many of you have been to community meetings where it feels like I did a lot of community meetings and I stopped going to the ones that I felt like I was walking into the same meeting every month. Right? Oh my God, we're still like, we haven't actually moved anything. We're not talking about progress. We're not actually being real or honest. It's like I left and went to the ladies' room and came back to the same exact meeting. That is a form of continuous communication. I would say it's not an effective one. So by using the RBA 7 questions and building on the progress each time and thinking about the strategy and measuring those strategies, I think it helps support the communication. And then of course there's communication between meetings, which is not related to RBA. And the backbone support is also not necessarily tied to RBA unless it means that your backbone is helping really pull that data together, put it into a way that makes sense, keeping the meeting notes, etc., asking people to submit their data for their individual strategies so that you can weave a really powerful story together. That often falls to the backbone support. Some things that just so that in your head you know around collective impact, there's also some dynamics around power and inclusion that are really important to consider right now, which has nothing to do with RBA, but does have to do with making sure that those efforts can be sustained for the long haul and are really good. And so that's just something that if you're interested in collective impact, you may want to further along. So any questions or comments about collective impact and RBA and how it helps support collective impact? Then strategic planning. So if you're not part of collective impact or community work, it also has implications for your strategic planning. I think in and of itself, it's a beautiful conversation for boards or leadership teams or program, the whole organization to come together and figure that out. And as so many of you mentioned, again, getting everyone aligned in terms of what their role is, what this programmatic role is, how they fit together, and to what end are we doing this work. And is it effective? Asking the really hard question, does it actually make a difference to what we say that we've said we want to make a difference in? Often that's the mission, but in RBA language, it would be that community result. So there are all sorts of ways to do strategic planning. And every time I do those other ones, I'm like, you know what, RBA is a pretty darn good, effective, efficient tool to use in that regard. So I wouldn't underestimate it.